morning, I'm Agustín Zepeda for NewZtar Intelligence. Here is your global briefing for Sunday, June 14, 2026. President Trump announced Sunday that a deal to end the Iran conflict would be signed today, but Tehran publicly contradicted that timeline, saying they have not agreed to sign. Israeli strikes on Beirut just hours before the announcement have further derailed negotiations, with Iran calling the talks pointless. But here is where the coverage diverges. American media frames Israeli strikes as a complicating factor without suggesting intent. Chinese and Russian outlets describe the strikes as deliberate sabotage timed to destroy the peace process. Russian media uniquely reports Indian protests over sailor deaths related to Hormuz enforcement, completely absent from Western coverage. Royal Marines boarded and seized a sanctioned Russian oil tanker in the English Channel today. The vessel is believed to be part of Russia's shadow fleet used to evade oil export sanctions. This marks the first known use of military boarding operations to enforce sanctions against Russian shipping. But here is where the coverage diverges. American and European outlets frame this as successful sanctions enforcement against Russia's shadow fleet. Russian media dismisses it as the UK prioritizing tankers over domestic crime, claiming misplaced government priorities rather than legitimate enforcement. The Trump administration has ordered AI company Anthropic to block global access to its most advanced models, named Fable and Mythos. The company has complied, shutting down international access immediately. This marks the first use of executive authority to restrict AI model deployment worldwide, raising questions about technology sovereignty. But here is where the coverage diverges. American technology media focuses on the unprecedented nature of the executive action and compliance questions. Chinese state media frames this as confirmation of US weaponizing technology access. European outlets emphasize technology sovereignty concerns and potential EU countermeasures. The Swiss National Bank executed an emergency 50 basis point rate cut, dropping rates to 0.5%. This aggressive move signals deepening economic stress across Europe. The Swiss franc dropped 0.5% against the dollar immediately following the announcement. But here is where the coverage diverges. American financial media frames this as emergency response to deflation risk. European outlets emphasize growth concerns and manufacturing weakness. Russian media highlights European economic fragility as validation of sanctions backfiring. Multiple state attorneys general have opened investigations into OpenAI ahead of its planned initial public offering. The probe focuses on data privacy practices and consumer protection issues. This regulatory scrutiny could delay or complicate the company's market debut. But here is where the coverage diverges. American business media frames this as routine pre-IPO scrutiny that may cause delays. European outlets emphasize broader AI governance gaps. Chinese state media presents this as evidence of US inability to regulate its own technology sector. Fox News has finalized its settlement payment to Dominion Voting Systems, concluding one of the largest defamation cases in media history. The settlement amount and payment structure remain under court seal. This closes a legal chapter that reshaped election coverage standards across American media. But here is where the coverage diverges. American mainstream media frames this as accountability for election misinformation. Russian media portrays this as censorship and suppression of alternative viewpoints. Chinese state media uses this to highlight American media credibility problems. That is your NewZtar Intelligence briefing for Sunday, June 14, 2026. News in every angle, every morning. I'm Agustín Zepeda. Stay informed.